What's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Today we're going to rank the top 10 epic champions for Fire Knight's Castle. Now, in order to have a well-balanced, successful Fire Knight's team, the first thing that you think about is getting a lot of hits, getting multiple hits, ideally 3 hits on the A1 of a champion, which makes champions like Apothecary, like Allure so good, although we're talking just epics here in today's video, so good against Fire Knight. Also, heal reduction helps because Fire Knight can heal himself like a beast. You also need one big damage dealer, so having a damage dealer helps out as well because once that shield is down, you need somebody carrying the brunt of the actual damage. So again, a reason why Coulthart, who is a rare, is so incredibly good with the turn meter manipulation as well against Fire Knight. So today we're going to rank the top 10 in no particular order epic champions that if you have, definitely consider investing in if you need that Fire Knight help. Also having some heals, some support is useful too, as we'll see on this list. So let's go ahead and just jump into the list here, guys. So first up is Beardal Fellhammer. Beardal Fellhammer is Void Affinity. He is a dwarf, obviously, so he's a little bit more difficult to get, but he has to be on this list because he's made for Fire Knight. His kit is just Fire Knight written all over it, right? 4.9 in Fire Knight Castle on the reviews. Has a 2-hit heal reduction on the A1. On the A2, he has one enemy 3 times, so again, a 3-time multi-hitter on the A2 as well, and that's it. He just has a passive on top of that, but his passive helps you out as well. By the way, shield on the A2 as well, which keeps him alive, which is nice. His damage is based on attack, to note. On the passive, places a counterattack buff on this champion for 1 turn at the start of each round, and then place a counterattack buff on this champion for 1 turn at the end of their turn. So he's going to have that counterattack on him as well. Again, he's built for Fire Knight, especially if you don't have a Skullcrusher, a Valkyrie, a Martyr, or a Reflect damage champion that we're going to discuss on this list. Let's go ahead and move on to the second champion. Let's just go ahead and get Allure out of the way with right away because she is insane. Probably the only like SS tier champion on this list that you can run end game, like not most, but a lot of end game teams run Allure if they have her in Fire Knight 20. I have her. I'm working on a guide for her right now. She also has a 4.9 rating. She's also good in other areas of the game too. So Allure is just an incredible, basically close to legendary, well, better than a lot of legendary champions in the epic rarity. She is a demon spawn magic affinity, attacks 3 times, decreases the target's turn meter by 25% on each hit on her A1. This is a perfect A1 for Fire Knight. Don't need to tell you guys, not only is she hitting 3 times to chop that shield down, but when the shield is down, she's also getting the 25% turn meter reduction on every hit on the A1. Insane. And then attacks all enemies 2 times on the A2, has a chance of placing the decreased defense debuff for 1 turn and a chance at the sleep debuff, and then attacks 1 enemy, has a 30% chance of, extra 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit, will ignore 50% of the target's defense. It's on a 6-turn cooldown, but who cares? You are only using this ability when the shield is down. So if you're manualing Fire Knight with Allure, she's just insane. You chip away at the shield with her A1, and then you can use the A1 if you want to, turn meter reduction if you need it. If you don't need it, switch over to the Hellish Blaze on the A3, and she hits like a truck because she's ignoring 50% of the target's defense. So you can kind of serve both the chip away at the shield damage and some of the main damage when the shield is down, all in one champion. Allure is a beast. Champion number 3 is Lightsworn. Lightsworn is another Void Affinity champion. There's not that many Voids on this list. We have a review here of him scoring a 4.8 in Fire Knight's Castle. You can see his abilities are solid as well. Again, a 3-hit on the A1, this time decreasing the target's turn meter by 10%. And then on the A2, attacks 1 enemy, plays a 50% decrease attack debuff for and a 30% decrease speed debuff for 2 turns. Solid there as well. And then, of course, keeping your team alive is what Lightsworn is known for on his A3. On the 4-turn cooldown when booked, plays a 60% increased defense buff and a revive on death buff on all allies for 2 turns. Again, Fire Knight hits hard, so having some of that increased defense, revive on death, having the debuffs on there, and the multi-hit 3-hit on the A1 all makes Lightsworn an absolute specialist when it comes to Fire Knight. So staying in the Sacred Order, switching to the Magic Affinity Champion, Frostbringer. So Frostbringer scores a 4.6 in Fire Knight's Castle. On her A1, it attacks 2 times at random. Each shot has a chance, when totally booked up, what is it, a 30% chance of placing a heal reduction for 2 turns. Again, Fire Knight heals for a lot, so having that is helpful. Not mandatory, but helpful on the team. 3-hitter on the A2 as well. Also places a decreased defense debuff, and if it's under the heal reduction from the A1 or another champion on a 3-turn cooldown, not too bad, again, when booked. And then helping your team out, similar to Lightsworn, right? She has that third ability that's really just important in all battles, not just Fire Knight. So has the increased speed and the increased attack, strong version of both on all allies for 2 turns. That is on a 4-turn cooldown, again, when booked. Frostbringer's super solid for Fire Knight's Castle. Next up is Terrabeast. So Terrabeast is kind of weird to look at when you're looking at him straight on, but he has a pretty cool aesthetic when it is, when you do the panoramic here. But Terrabeast is really a specialist in terms of only being used in Fire Knight's Castle, I think. Let's see. Campaign locations give him a 4.6, but to be honest with you, it's really all about Fire Knight. So when would you use Terrabeast? Again, if you don't have a champion, we're going to cover 2 champions here with reflect damage abilities in this top 10 list, and Terrabeast has it on his A2. Just on his A1, it's just a regular 1 attack, but again, attacks 2 times at random, and then places a 30% reflect damage buff on all allies for 3 turns. Now, a 3-turn on the reflect is really solid because it's a 3-turn ability. The buff lasts for 3 turns, again, when booked up. You don't need to, but booking your Terrabeast to get this on the 1 turn lower on the cooldown is going to be incredibly helpful. You're only doing 30% of the reflect damage, but A, he puts out a lot of damage, and B, it's not about how much damage you're doing, it's about having that reflect to chip away, again, at the shield of the Fire Knight. So Terrabeast is super solid in that regard. A 2-hitter on the A3 as well. 1 enemy 2 times, fully heals his champion. The target is killed by the attack. Obviously, that's not going to come into play against Fire Knight. So there he goes, Terrabeast making the list. So who saw this one coming? Obviously, Skullcrusher, the only epic champion that gives the counterattack to his allies, joining Martyr and Valkyrie as really the only champions in the game who have the counterattack ability. So it makes them so fundamental to a lot of team structures. Now, you don't have to have counterattack for Fire Knight, similar that you don't have to have counterattack for Clan Boss inside Raid Shadow Legends. I don't use a counterattacker. I have Skullcrusher maxed out. I use him in my Clan Boss. I don't use him in my Fire Knight. So it all depends if you have enough multi-hitters to complement the rest of your team, or if you need that reflect damage or Skullcrusher for the counterattack in your team as well to get that shield down. So Skullcrusher has the heal reduction also on his A1, which is also helpful against Fire Knight, and then on his A2 has the ally protect, has the unkillable, and of course places a counterattack buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Want to try to make him a bit fast, especially for Fire Knight. Really the same thing with all these champions. Speed is your friend in Fire Knight's Castle. Remember that, because the idea is you're going more often than Fire Knight is, and you can start lapping him in terms of turns. That will help you get his shield down and do more damage when it is down. Next up on the list is Warden. So we talked about Warden here on the channel before. He is a Dark Elf champion. Let's see, Fire Knight gives him a 4.4, so the lowest that we've had in terms of reviews, and I can see why. He is kind of break in case of an emergency type champion. He has the reflect damage, but let's say you don't have Skullcrusher. Let's say you have Warden, obviously. You don't have Terrabeast, you don't have Valkyrie, you don't have Mortar. And you don't have a ton of multi-hitters. Maybe you have 1 or 2, you just can't get that shield down. Then you swap in a hero or champion like Warden, because he also has the reflect, but it's not as good as Terrabeast. So his whole kit is pretty good. And the one thing to mention with Warden, though, is, oh my god, I think he takes the most books to totally use in the game. Books are pretty important on him, but look at this. 8 books on his A1 that has the weaken and 1 attack. 7 books on his A2, attacks all enemies, 50% chance of placing a decreased attack debuff for 2 turns, and the chance of decreased defense. The increased defense is for all your allies, my bad on that. And his damage is based on defense, which is solid as well. And then he has the reflect with 7 more books needed to take this all the way down to 3 turns. Now, this is only really incredibly useful if it's all the way booked up, because you can see there's 3 cooldown books on there. So you're really gonna have to use, good God, 8 and 7, 14. You're 22 books on this dude? Yikes. So I don't know, guys, if you have the books, then think about it. Sure, I mean, he is, when fully booked out, fully kitted out, high defense on this guy. He's gonna help you against Fire Knight. He is serviceable if you need that counterattacker. Otherwise, maybe concentrate on somebody else. So next up is Exemplar. Exemplar is incredibly good in Fire Knight's castle, guys, and she gets a 4.6. I think that, you know, I would rank her even higher, because essentially you're only using her first 2 abilities in Fire Knight's castle, and she does require books. Again, not as bad as Warden though. So her A1 hits 3 times, attacks 1 enemy 2 times, an extra hit if the attack is critical. So you're gonna build her with 100% crit rate, so she's always getting 3 hits on that A1. On the A2, again, a 3 attacker. Attacks 3 times at random. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. Now the cool thing is, and this is why you need the books, this can go all the way down to a 2 turn cooldown. So every turn, every time she attacks when booked, she's going to be hitting 3 times. That's really valuable. So again, 3 hits there, 3 hits here. That's why she's great at Fire Knights. And then on the A3, Capture is attacks 1 enemy, 75% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn, and block cooldown skills debuff for 2 turns. Not as useful there, but it's really, again, all about her A1 or A2. So next up is Catacomb Counselor. Catacomb Counselor is another champion who's great in Fire Knight because of his A3 on his kit here. So let's see, his score is 4.8, another high score here. Only 1 attack, 1 hit on his A1, okay. And then you see the attacks 1 enemy 3 times, heals this champion by 20% of the damage inflicted, so pretty solid on a 3-turn cooldown when booked on his A2. And then his A3 is what it's all about. It's Army of Death every 4 turns, teams up with 3 random allies to attack a single enemy. The allies joining the attack will use their default skills. Another champion who you're going to want to book up here, especially for this, to get it on a 4-turn cooldown. You want to build him as fast as possible, not build him to do a lot of damage, build him with a ton of speed. That way you're getting as many of these Army of Deaths as possible off on the Fire Knight, taking his shield down, and then pairing him with a lot of multi-hitters on their A1 as well. So it's definitely a champion that requires the right team around him, but when you have everything right, building a team around Catacomb Counselor can be incredibly successful against the Fire Knight. And last but not least on our list today, guys, is Rowan. So Rowan is a really cool champion as well. She has a 4.5 against Fire Knight, and she only hits 1 time, but she has a 50% shot, 60% when booked, at getting that 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turn, and damage increases according to speed, which is kind of cool, but largely irrelevant for Fire Knight. And then on her A2, attacks 3 times at random, 30% chance, 40% chance of placing a stun, again relevant for Fire Knight, but pretty cool. And then a 1 enemy 4 times on her A3, each hit has a 50% chance of placing a strong version of poison debuff for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. So Rowan is, you know what, I'll be honest with you guys, there's maybe a few other champions who are solid against Fire Knight in the epic category, but Rowan was kind of on the cusp. It could have been her or a few others. I decided to go with her because of the 2 multi-hitters there. She has that heal reduction as well, so a pretty versatile kit for Fire Knight. Unfortunately, you don't want to have her in there with a counterattack team, because the counterattack team, of course, are going to be triggering, proccing that A1, which is going to be irrelevant largely on Rowan unless the shield is down. So Rowan does kind of sneak in there at the end of the list, guys. Let me know what you think of my list. What champions did I leave off? Who do you have the most respect for? Do you own any of these champions? Do you use them? If so, inside Fire Knight's castle. Thank you so much for watching this, guys. I really appreciate it. And as always, take care, guys.